A cosmic storm began erasing entire worlds, and the galaxy had no weapons to resist, only memories of harmony. They turned to humanity, the species they once quarantined, to teach them the forgotten art of war. Together, we built a ship that shouldn't exist, powered by paradox and flown straight into oblivion. We didn't destroy the storm, we rewrote it, and from its ashes bloomed a new intelligence, a living library of reality itself. Now, the seeds we planted reshape the universe, and what comes next may be more dangerous than the war we won. Stay with us to find out how the story ends, and don't forget to subscribe. There was a hush beneath the diamond canopy of the Zenith Confederacy's Hall of Resonance that no one alive had ever heard before, a hush born not of contemplation but of primal fear. For 12 serene millennia, the six-species confederacy had known no rivals, no famine, no crime. Their towering arcologies glittered along orbital rings, every surface tuned to convert starlight into music and power. They had abolished the notion of enemy so thoroughly that the word existed only in archives of extinct tongues. Yet the images hovering in the center of the hall stripped language from every delegate. A planet, once home to 3 billion Orlith scholars, collapsed inward like a punctured bubble. It did not burn or shatter, it simply folded into an oily void that drank oceans, mantle, and core in a single, noiseless breath. Moments later, the recording cut to black, not because the telescope was destroyed, but because space-time itself no longer refracted light in that direction. The devourer left nothing, no debris, no radiation plume, not even quantum echoes. It was as though the planet, its star, and the laws that had once described them had never been real. Hyachanter Relix, whose amber carapace normally shimmered with harmonic calm, rasped across the empathic lattice. This is the third system lost in 70 rotations. We have named the phenomenon the null storm. It progresses along a vector that intersects our cradle worlds within 2 standard years. Silence answered. Then first curator Arova, translucent and willow slender, allowed a single pulse of violet distress to ripple down her skin. We possess no frame of attack or resistance. Even our gravitic enigmas cannot touch a storm that unweaves causality itself. A restless flicker crossed the hall, delegates trading wordless pleas for an impossible solution. It was Shard Speaker Melik of the Crystal and the Scar who, at last, articulated the heresy that had gnawed at the edges of every mind present. There is another path. Thousands of compound eyes and bioluminescent organs fixed upon him. He hesitated, letting his harmonic stamp to barely audible statics. Beyond our sphere lies a people we classified species H Solex, self-designated humans. They are volatile, ingenious, and tragically fond of conflict. Their neural architectures prize strategy, retaliation, escalation. In short, they remember how to wage war. Pandemonium erupted. The Confederacy's empathic net crackled with outrage and terror. We quarantined that world for a reason, flashed Archivist Koldar, frills flaring crimson. Their history is a catalog of planetary self-harm. And yet, Melik countered, letting a solemn chord vibrate through his prismatic seams, they have survived every cataclysm of their own making. Their talent for violence may be the very instrument we lack. We must ask these humans to stand where we cannot. Into the maelstrom strode Keeper Solari, youngest ever elected among the starborn Lemestra, her skin a radiant lattice of silver veins. She raised a hand and the hall fell obediently silent. 8 sunrise cycles ago, she said in carefully enunciated spoken basic, an affectation meant to underscore gravity, I commissioned simulations. They confirm what our hearts fear. No technology the Confederacy wields can alter the null storm's course. If we cling to our purity, we face certain extinction. But there is a sliver of hope and divergence. I therefore propose we transmit an appeal for guardianship to Earth. A final hush, deeper than the first, settled over the delegates. Because a decision had crystallized. On Earth, sunrise over the New Mexico desert spilled gold across the twin superconducting rings of the Hyperion Array. Dr. Leah Grant, senior astrophysicist and reluctant caretaker of humanity's most expensive ear to the cosmos, sipped cold coffee when the anomaly arrived. Her console bloomed with strings of Q-entangled glyphs, somehow bypassing every secure gateway the lab possessed. 30 heartbeats later, she realized the message was self-decrypting, rewriting quantum states to present itself in whatever grammar her brain could process fastest. It coalesced as a plea, urgent and unmistakably alien. To the species who call themselves human, we are the Zenith Confederacy, 6 peoples bound by harmony. A storm that erases reality advances upon us. We lack the art of resistance. You possess this art. Teach us war, or we shall all vanish together into the null. Leah whispered, holy, then remembered to breathe. Within 48 hours, an emergency session of the United Earth Compact gathered beneath the shattered remnant of the old UN ceiling, kept as memorial to the fractious age they thought they'd left behind. Presidents, premiers, corporate governors, even the commander of the Belt Free Ports, filled the chamber with avatars and hardlight projections. General Isaac Mwangi, his hair more silver than black these days, summarized the impossible. An alien civilization older than our pyramids is begging us to do what they cannot. Fight. They offer, in exchange, propulsion tech that makes our fastest drives look like fireworks. But it's more than engines, they're handing over a map of physical law we've never glimpsed. Senator Alvarez of the Andean Coalition folded her arms. And they're pacifists so devout they deleted all their weapons centuries ago. General, why do they think we can succeed where a star-spanning society failed? Mwangi tapped the projection. A timeline of human conflict scrolled, somber but undeniable. Because our entire written history is a manual on turning adversity into an equation we can solve. He paused. And because if the null storm consumes them, it will eventually reach us. There is no neutral ground in a universe that can be unmade. Debate raged for 16 hours, equal parts fear, skepticism, and buried pride, until, by a margin of 3 votes, Earth accepted the Confederacy's appeal. Project Vigilant Dawn was born. 6 months later, the makeshift fleet assembled in cislunar orbit looked like a junkyard dream of unity. Retrofitted frigates from rival navies docked beside cargo haulers dusted off from Mars Terra supply runs. Experimental slip matrix corvettes still stinking of resin. An orbital railgun platform no treaty had ever admitted existed. Threading them all together were lattices of silver filaments, the gift of Zenith engineers, which reconfigured reality's handshake with matter just enough to allow flux translation, a full drive capable of bridging 10 light-years in a heartbeat. At the tip of that spear floated the ESV Lionheart, flagship of Vigilant Dawn. Its commander, Captain Mayaru, had commanded disaster relief fleets in the Jovian storms and once negotiated a ceasefire by docking her corvette between 2 asteroid militias mid-salvo. She stood now upon a view deck carved from repurposed shuttle glass, watching Earth's cloud-swirled disk diminish with every kilometer. A whisper of static preceded the arrival of Keeper Solari's holoform beside her, luminescent veins tracing maps of unknown constellations under semi-translucent skin. "Your world is beautiful," Solari said, every syllable resonant with sincerity. "Our archives doubted a species so young could sculpt such harmony in orbit." Maya chuckled. "I'd hold the compliments until you've seen our worst memes." Then her smile faded. "Once we jump, there's no calibration window. If zenith coordinates are off by even a fraction, we could embed half the fleet inside a moon." Solari inclined her head, light playing through her silver filaments. "We cross the abyss together, Captain. What emerges on the far shore will not be only zenith or human, but something forged in the union of our strengths." Bridge alarms pulse soft amber. Flux translation sequence initiated. Maya took the captain's chair. "All ships, this is Lionheart. Brace for the unknown." She glanced once at Earth, distant and small, yet carrying the weight of every mistake and triumph her species had ever made. Leap. Space folded. Color bled out of existence, replaced by a prismatic afterimage that lived inside the mind more than the eye. For an infinitesimal eternity, the fleet was nowhere. Then the stars snapped back. The Zenith home system greeted them with a chill silence. 3 of its outer gas giants were simply absent, thin rings of gravitational debris outlining where orbits used to be. At the system's heart, a flickering wound haloed the primary star, feeding upon stellar plasma like a dark tide. Maya felt the bridge crew's collective breath freeze. Helm whispered, "Ma'am, we're later than expected. Null storm front is inside zenith orbit by 18 light minutes." "Understood." Maya straightened, voice steady. "Signal the Confederacy. The Guardians have arrived. Then bring weapons online. Let's see if reality still answers to physics inside that thing's shadow." Her own words startled her, half challenge, half prayer. Because somewhere, in that impossible darkness, the Devourer turned its eyeless attention toward the newcomers. And for the first time in eons, the null storm met an adversary not of harmony, but of stubborn, defiant will. The first sensation was wrongness in the bones, a subtle, nauseating pressure as if unseen fingers plucked reality's strings a halftone flat. On the Lionheart's main holotank, that wrongness manifested as a black rose blooming across the starfield, petals of negative luminance curling toward the fleet. Sensors screamed with data they could not parse. Half the readings came back as undefined, as though the null storm refused to admit there was anything to measure. "Object approaching at 0.92C, reported Lieutenant Abera," voice clipped. "No conventional inertia signature. The grid thinks it's a topological defect." "Defect or not," Captain Mayaru answered, "it's on a collision course. Gunnery, ready the prism lances." The lances, human ingenuity wrapped in zenith crystal logic, fired skeins of coherent graviton shear, bright as comet tails. The beams should have sliced asteroids to vapor. Instead, they vanished the moment they touched the onrushing shadow, as though the universe swallowed its own equations. Inside the science bay, Dr. Leah Grant and Keeper Solari watched the telemetry collapse in real time. "It's canceling interactions outright," Leah breathed. "Not absorbing energy, nullifying the concept of energy transfer." Solari's silver veins dimmed. "Our harmonics predicted partial resistance, not utter void." The defect kept coming. Maya slammed open the battlenet. "All ships, lateral disperse, pattern delta. We're not giving it a single mass target." Too late for the corvette Daigoji. The shadow brushed its bow. From the bridge viewport, crew aboard every ship saw a hole appear in the Daigoji silhouette, perfectly spherical, rimmed with crawling unlight. A heartbeat later, the rest of the corvette flowed inward like wax into a drain, leaving only ripples where atoms once insisted upon themselves. 27 souls, gone between ticks of the chronometer. The human comms channel burst with curses, gasps, stifled sobs, but no panic. Maya felt pride stitch itself to her fear. The worst humanity had bred was now alloyed to its best. Tacticians, she snapped. I need a way to define that thing so our weapons actually exist when they hit. Leah's voice came tight over the link. The null eats causal links. What if we give it too many to digest at once, overload its local coherence? Quantum clutter? Maya said. Essentially. We swarm it with microsingularities and entangled charge cages. Every time it tries to cancel one interaction, another entangled twin asserts itself elsewhere, forcing the null to chase its own contradictions. In lay terms, we hit it with paradox until it chokes. Maya allowed herself a wolfish grin. I've always loved a good paradox. Make it happen. Within minutes, fabrication bays aboard every ship were printing Schrödinger minds, fist-sized spheres whose internal states refused to resolve until observed. Each paired with a twin on another vessel. The plan was insane. Flood the defect with mutually exclusive certainties faster than it could erase them. As the first volley deployed, the fleet maneuvered with surgical synergy. Zenith navigators fed harmonic predictions into human tactical AI, and for 6 breathless minutes the black rose flickered like a glitching specter caught between frames. Minds winked in and out of definite existence. Each collapse unleashed a ripple of gamma thunder the null could not pre-anticipate. Then, for the first time, the shadow reeled. A ragged veil peeled away, exposing a heaving, fractal underside, part storm cloud, part nightmare geometry. Within that raw opening, stars behind the entity became visible again, distorted but there. Proof of wound. Confirmed structural destabilization. Leah shouted. Field integrity down 17%. Gunner crews did not wait. Kinetic spears, unglamorous tungsten rods accelerated to a 10th light speed, punched through the exposed rift. Reality acknowledged the projectiles just long enough for them to tear cavities that bled shimmering particulate, like sparks from a cosmic forge. The defect convulsed, spawning counter-eddies that licked at the mines. Paradox fireworks blossomed across its surface, feedback flashing white on every screen. And suddenly, the thing folded inward along an axis no map could plot. When sensor haze cleared, empty vacuum glimmered where annihilation had hovered. A cheer surged fleet-wide, raw, disbelieving joy. But it died just as fast when long-range scopes painted the true storm. A roiling wall encircling the star, larger than every planet's orbit combined. What they'd fought was only a scout filament, one questing limb of an impossible predator. On the command dais, Maya felt the weight settle. We bloodied a finger, she murmured. Now the hand knows we're here. Hours later, in the hastily converted harmonics theater aboard Lionheart, a war council assembled. Captains Human and Zenith, engineers, strategists, historians, because history often bled into prophecy in desperate times. A rotating hollow of the null storm dominated the chamber, an insisted sphere of anti-structure, threaded by lightning that crawled between probability wells. It dwarfed the sun it feasted upon, yet rotated with the slow inevitability of a black hole accretion disk. Leah spoke first. It's not merely devouring mass, it's rewriting local vacuum topology. Left unchecked, the star will detonatively decohere, releasing a burst that will propagate the storm's physics across interstellar distances. Everything we've seen so far is only preparation. General Mwangi folded scarred hands. How long before catastrophic spread reaches Confederacy core worlds? 17 standard days, Keeper Solari answered, voice thin. 13 before civil infrastructure collapses. Maya paced beneath the hollow. I need options. Anything. It was Shard Speaker Melik who offered a shard of myth instead of science. Among the Scar, he began, crystalline overtones soft. We preserve a cautionary epic, the unbirthed reflection. It speaks of a harmony engine crafted in ancient times to excise discord from our culture. We believed if no thought could resonate in conflict, paradise would follow. The engine worked, too well. All contradictory patterns, even those required for change, were bled into a shadow realm. That realm festered, until it burst back upon us in hunger. A hush answered. You're suggesting, Leah said, the null storm may be the Confederacy's own discarded entropy, given form? More than suggestion, Melik corrected. Our deep time scans of the storm's frequency align with dormant resonance registers sealed millennia ago, registers keyed to our neural spectra. We may have birthed the very void that hunts us. Maya rubbed tired eyes. So the monster is our host's dark mirror. How do you kill a shadow without killing the light that cast it? Solari lifted her gaze, silver veins brightening with a spark of dangerous hope. We reconcile, Captain Rue, not with weapons alone, but with integration. If paradox wounds the null, then a greater contradiction, a harmony that embraces discord, might consume it. Leah caught on. You mean infect the storm with human cognitive structures? Species forged in conflict yet capable of unity. Precisely. We see the resonance core at the storm's heart, patterned on duality, not singular harmony. Give the void something it cannot annul because it contains both sides of every equation. Wangi's brow furrowed. Delivering the core means entering the storm. Anything we send will be unmade. Not, Maya said slowly, if we ride the contradiction in person. Eyes turned to her. The null expects drones, projections, remote warheads. It doesn't expect a vessel whose interior houses two incompatible realities stitched together. A blended crew, human and zenith, wired into a feedback chorus. We sing the core into place. Silence, but this time a charged, combustible silence. Engineer Admiral Ngugi broke it. We need a hull of metamaterial lattice paired with flux coils running in continuous superposition. Powered by an antimatter heart entangled with an external twin, Leah finished. And a crew willing to step into unspace knowing the storm may overwrite their timelines, Solari added quietly. Maya's answer came without pause. I'll command that ship. Construction began at once aboard the Horizon Spire, Zenith's orbit-forged megadock. Human welders and the Scar Shardsmiths labored side by side, singing rivet rhythms that interwove with crystal resonance hums. In 72 frenetic hours they birthed the contradiction, a vessel less crafted than conceived, its keel a Mobius twist of polarized alloys, outer plates shimmering between matte black and starshine depending on who observed them. Inside, passageways spiraled Escher-like, merging deck with bulkhead. To walk its halls was to feel gravity negotiate treaties with thought. At the core chamber, twin singularity cages floated in antipodal equilibrium, one matter, one antimatter, each refusing to acknowledge the other's impossibility. That refusal radiated as a low thrumming chord that set teeth on edge, music of disagreement made manifest. The crew numbered 52, 27 humans, 25 zenith drawn from every species. They trained by sharing memories through empathic implants, swapping childhood recollections like flashcards. First snowfall over Toronto, first sky glide above crystalline forest of Ellis, the taste of despair in a bombed-out refugee tunnel under Nairobi. The luminous awe of seeing twin moons rise over the Wolfwater Sea. Pain and wonder wove together until distinctions blurred. During final briefing, Maya stood before them clad in hybrid carapace armor, zenith psycholattice embedded along the collar. Her voice carried ship-wide. History will say we're launching to kill a monster. But the storm is no simple beast. It is the echo of every denial of conflict, every refusal to change, every fear of necessary struggle. We go to light a beacon inside that echo, a beacon of paradox, unity that embraces strife, peace that honors the will to stand. She let the words settle. Some of us will not return in forms our families recognize. But our song will. And in that song, the galaxy may find a future worth singing. The choir of voices, some human warm, some zenith harmonic, answered as one. We go together. Launch. The contradiction slipped free of the spire, escorted by the fleet to the brink of the Nullstorm's event horizon. Beyond that threshold, instruments read possibility as noise. Only the empathic lattice linking crew to zenith minds outside would track their position in conceptual space. On the bridge, co-pilot Lieutenant Danny Reyes synced her heartbeat to the oscillating singularities. Across from her, Navigator Eliareth of the Lemestra folded luminous fingers over the helm crystal. All vectors collapse, Eliareth intoned. Entanglement handshake engaged. Maya exhaled. Take us inside. The view screen dissolved into writhing ink. There was no sense of motion, only the disconcerting perception that motion had been edited from the script of reality. Hull alarms barked nonsense, then fell silent when raw data ceased to have meaning. And yet, the crew remained. Danny's voice came thin. Quantum decoherence rising. We're losing distinct. Eliareth placed a glowing hand on Danny's shoulder. Sing. Soft at first. A single zenith timbre, a chord older than planets, floated through the cabin. Danny answered with a low human hum, the sort sung by mothers rocking colicky infants. One by one voices joined, weaving wavelengths and phonemes no linguistic matrix could parse. The contradiction shuddered, but held. Inside its maze hole, the resonance core bloomed like twin stars, one note of strife, one of solace, rotating in counterpoint. Somewhere in that abyss, the Nullstorm noticed. Its dark tides surged inward, claws of unlaw scrabbling at the ship's contradictory heart. Meters of hull vanished, reappeared, reconfigured in fractal mosaics. A bulkhead sprouted mirror images, then reassembled as cascading spiral. Crew clung to the song, each heartbeat a metronome against oblivion. Leah's voice crackled across internal comms. Core integrity at 83%. Null adaptation rate increasing. We hold the note, Maya whispered, throat raw. She pictured the faces of the Daigoji crew, the Oralith scholars, every life the Null had swallowed. They deserved a universe where memory persisted. The ship's external projectors flared, casting the resonance signature outward, a beacon of irreconcilable truths. Where it touched the storm, surfaces peeled back, revealing depthless cavities filled with strobing color, reds, blues, ultraviolet flares humanity had no receptors for. The void was learning color, tasting distinction. A tidal roar, silent yet felt in marrow, poured toward the contradiction. Hull metrics plummeted. Zenith crystal facets cracked, singing discordant harmonics. Human alloys glowed cherry, bleeding atmosphere into quantum froth. Maya locked eyes with Elureth. We need amplification. Elureth nodded once. Across every deck, volunteers stepped into harmonic pylons, conduits designed for this final gamble. They offered memories, traumas, triumphs. The pylons drank them, fed them into the resonance weave. Songs turned symphony, lullabies over artillery thunder, marriage vows alongside revolution chants, lull periods of golden peace braided with the scream of breaking chains. The resonance core bloomed brighter, twin singularities merging without annihilation, an impossibility so loud the null storm staggered. Vibrant fissures spiderwebbed across its continental wall, bleeding motes of condensed chronology, fragments of days erased, loves cut short, futures never born. Reality, denied, now demanded accounting. Leah screamed over comms, core overload in 20 seconds. If we stay, we become part of the equation forever. Maya touched the helm crystal, voice hoarse yet unbroken. Transformation or death, it ends now. She slammed the convergence command. The singularities inverted, radiating not energy but narrative, a shockwave of coherent paradox that rippled through the null, forcing every point to declare itself as both shadow and light. And a thing cannot be both predator and healing without tearing open to choose. The null storm ruptured. Not an explosion, but an unfolding, petals of darkness turning inside out to reveal star-bright interiors. The Devourer's topology inverted, converting entropic hunger into cascades of potential. Where it touched the star, fusion fires rekindled. Where it touched empty space, new particle foam condensed, raw clay for worlds unborn. The contradiction rode the heart of that transformation, hull dissolving into kaleidoscopic echo. Crew drifted apart like dandelion seeds of thought, each consciousness trailing a thread of song. Then, silence. Light. The cold clarity of normal space. They awoke aboard Lionheart's infirmary base, days later, bodies whole but marked by lattices of bioluminescence under the skin, zenith patterns mingled with human capillaries. Medical scans struggled to label organs reoptimized by paradox. Yet minds were sharp, voices steady. Outside the viewports, the star burned strong, its corona pristine gold. No storm marred the horizon. Instead, translucent aurora looped between orbital rings, residual harmonics of reconciliation, painting the heavens with colors neither species had words for. Fleet reports confirmed it. The null storm was gone, its energy dispersed into renit space as scaffolding for new matter. Casualties were terrible. 3 ships lost in escort standby when the storm convulsed, but zenith worlds endured. And where annihilation once loomed, cosmic gardens of nascent nebula glittered. In the Grand Hall of Resonance, Keeper Solari addressed every system via empathic broadcast. Her words echoed through marble towers and farmland tunnels, across cold ocean trenches and desert sky bridges. Today we learned harmony is not the silence of conflict but its orchestration. In humanity we found not savagery, but the courage to face discord. Together we forged a melody the void itself could not erase. She gestured, and holos flared to show the contradictions crew, scarred, glowing, alive. As we rebuild, let us carry forward this truth. Peace is not the absence of war. It is the presence of souls willing to fight for more than themselves. Billions felt those words settle like dawn light on waters. Maya Ruse stood on a balcony overlooking the reborn zenith capital. Below, humans bartered spices with aurolith weavers. Children, some scaled, some skinned, chased scarab drones between crystal pillars. There was laughter in languages yet to be named. Leah approached, offering a flask of something bright and smoky. Maya accepted, sipping, wincing at the burn. Report came in from Sol Research Outpost, Leah said. The nanonebula left by the storm's inversion? It's condensing into planetary disks rich in prebiotic compounds. We turned a doomsday bomb into seeds of life. Maya watched twin moons rise, artifacts of paradox still glowing faintly. Funny. We set out to teach war. What we delivered was Genesis. Leah bumped her shoulder. Let them write the songs. We'll keep building the stage. Far above, the Lionheart and her surviving sister ships formed a loose ring, Sentinel and Celebration both. Their hulls now bore inlaid sigils, a jagged black rose overlaid by crossing lances of silver and cobalt, shadow and light in eternal dance. Somewhere beyond, other civilizations listened to the echo of a storm unmade and wondered what kind of humans could sing reality into new shapes. And whether, when their own darkness came calling, the strange guardians from the blue world might answer again. Morning settled over Luminara Prime with a hush unlike the one that had preceded the war, a hush woven of astonishment. Skies that once glittered only with orbital arcs now shimmered with curling aurorae left behind by the null storm's inversion. They danced in emerald ribbons, shedding motes that, when collected in laboratory fields, sprouted crystals arranged in impossibly precise Fibonacci lattices. Zenith poets named them hope seeds, human engineers called them autosynthetic metamaterials and promptly began drafting patents. No one had expected peace to be so busy. The Confederacy's interim conclave formed an emergency directorate to coordinate relief. HPC arrays mapped vacuum instabilities. Human constructors printed replacement habitats. The Scar Shardsmiths tuned resonance dampers to quiet dimensional echoes. Bureaucrats nicknamed the project Patchwork Dawn. and the moniker stuck. Two civilizations stitching the rent fabric of their shared future. Captain Maya Rue found herself promoted and politely exiled to a different battlefield, politics. As Admiral Rue, Commander Liaison of Joint Reconstruction, she spent 13-hour days mediating between Orolith urbanists, Earthborn mining conglomerates, and carrier captains who wanted their ships' names etched on anniversary monuments. Her datapad never cooled. And yet some nights she escaped to the equatorial savannas where plasma winds combed silvergrass into whispering waves. There she met Keeper Solari beneath half-formed constellations. They spoke of small things, the taste of muscadine wine shipped from Georgia, the music of glass reeds that grew along zenith coastlines, the way silence felt larger after you'd argued with a god-shaped shadow. For both, these stolen hours carried more weight than metals. One such night the sky rippled. A pinprick of darkness opened where aurora should have billowed, swallowing color like ink on silk. It snapped shut an instant later, but not before Maya sensed the old gut pull of null geography. The storm was gone. Its echo was not. Dr. Leah Grant sat in a stark white laboratory 300 kilometers above the savannah, staring at a containment tank that violated her intuition every second. The tank held a sphere no larger than a snow globe, a swirling vortex of dark and light braided like twin serpents. Zenith observers classified it in noetic vortex, remnant particle of the null storm. Human media called it a reality seed. Either phrase was accurate. The vortex emitted localized space-time harmonics that rewrote nearby matter into new configurations, as though auditioning possibilities. During initial tests, a steel probe lowered into the tank emerged etched with microscopic circuitry alien to both cultures. During the next test, a fresh probe dissolved, replaced by a lattice of carbon diamond foam. The third test yielded moss, a Terran species thought extinct. The seed was not merely destructive, it was creative, chaotic, exploratory. Leah felt the hair on her arms rise whenever she approached. It hummed at the edge of perception, a lullaby and warning wrapped together. We've confirmed 24 rogue pinholes over the mid-latitudes, she told Keeper Melik via holo. All decayed within microseconds, but each registered identical signatures to the seed. I think the storm left breadcrumbs, portals looking for anchors. Melik's crystalline carapace resonated a thoughtful triad. If breadcrumbs exist, someone or something may follow the trail back. Leah swallowed. Which means the inversion didn't end the threat. It deployed a network we don't yet understand. At the edge of the system, deep-range patrol craft ESV Vigil reported anomalies of its own. Gravimeters pulsed strange harmonics, then stabilized. Crew joked about ghosts until their sensor chief realized the starfield was wrong. Constellations offset by fractions of a degree, as if the firmament itself had flexed. Only one species in local space possessed drive coils that could jostle star vectors that far out. None. Earth Zenith Command convened an emergency council aboard Lionheart. Around the circular table floated delegates, admirals, engineers, and, at Maya's insistence, 2 civilian philosophers. Leah presented first. Data indicates the nullstorm inversion seeded our entire sector with subspace-time discontinuities. They're tiny, some on the scale of Planck lengths, but they're alive, evolving rules on the fly. Think of them as cosmic yeast. She tapped a panel. Left unchecked, they'll recombine into structures we can't predict, maybe benign, maybe catastrophic. General Mwangi leaned forward. Recommendation? Active shepherding, Leah answered. We need to map every microanomaly, nudge emergent physics toward stability, essentially curate reality until it matures into something safe. Chart speaker Melik took over. The Discar archives recall a legend of world weavers, artisans who tune newborn universes. My people always dismissed it as allegory. Now we may be forced to become what myth foretold. Solari stood. I proposed the Kaleidoscope Initiative, a joint expeditionary program to explore, stabilize, and in some cases nurture these reality seeds. If they can birth matter from possibility, they could terraform lifeless moons, rejuvenate dying biospheres, usher an era of abundance. Admiral Rue lifted a hand. And if seeds spawn hostile environments or attract predators who span those pinholes? We build sentinels as we go, Solari said quietly. You once taught us that peace is guardians. The council voted unanimous approval. The next frontier had arrived uninvited, but they would greet it with open eyes. Work began at breakneck pace. Human orbital yards bolted new hulls around zenith flux cores, birthing K-ships, sleek explorers armored in oppositional resonance plating. Each carried drones equipped with entanglement harpoons designed to pin erratic physics states long enough for scientists to map and prune them. The first wave launched within a month. Among them, the ESV Chrysalis, captained by Lieutenant Commander Danny Reyes. She'd survived the birth of Paradox, now she would shepherd its children. Her ship loped through subspace currents like a chrome swallow, sensors combing vacuum for telltale ripples. At $3.70 from the star, Chrysalis found a seed. It glowed teal, rotating faster than seems possible for a luminous mist. Reyes dispatched drones. They reported breathable atmosphere within a bubble only 30 meters wide. Inside hovered islands of glass-leafed vegetation edged in frost. The bubble's inner surface shimmered with lensing artifacts, as though reality tried to emplace an entire ecology in too small a box. Containment safe, her xenobotanist said, eyes wide. This is an orchard in a bottle. Reyes ordered a resonance beacon set. The bubble stabilized, swelling to 50 meters, then 80. Flowers unfolded, releasing bioluminescent spores that drifted like lanterns. Reyes felt something loosen behind her ribs. The universe, after all its fury, could still whisper beauty. Half a system away, another seed hatched teeth. The ESV Bastion responded to distress beacons from mining outpost Helix 9. Footage relayed showed corridors twisting Escher-like, gravity flipping mid-stride, miners screaming as rooms inverted into fractal pits. When Bastion arrived, Helix 9 was a sphere of tangled geometry, inside out and sealed. Bastion's captain, Tarun Singh, considered orbital bombardment until scanners detected faint life signs trapped in the spatial labyrinth. Rescue teams descended behind entanglement anchors, carving linear paths through what felt like four-dimensional origami. The miners they reached were shaken but alive. The geometry receded when bombarded with coherent paradox pulses tech derived from Schrödinger minds. Bastion's report chilled command. Some seeds incubated ecosystems, others birthed living hazards, adaptive labyrinths that would expand until checked. Vigilance had just become a permanent occupation. Months rolled into a year. The Kaleidoscope Initiative cataloged 4,137 seeds, stabilized 70%, risk-sealed 19, sacrificed 12 uninhabited moons to Starforges gone feral. Casualties remained mercifully low, but each lost soul echoed across the empathic net, a reminder that the frontier had fangs as well as fruit. Admiral Rue fought on a different front: politics. Human conglomerates coveted orchard bubbles for patented harvest. Zenith pacifists decried militarized shepherding. Rue walked corridors smoothed by centuries of harmony, trying not to bruise her knuckles on diplomatic doors. During a heated summit, she countered a Discard delegate's accusation of exploitation with a simple tablet projection, images of Helix 9 miners hugging children they'd thought orphaned. "This is stewardship," Rue said, ticking through casualty lists, blossoming orchards, terraformed asteroids. "We trimmed chaos so life, not profit, could bloom." The summit adjourned with the Foundation's charter. Seeds belong to no corporation or council, but to the collective stewardship of any species willing to guard them. It was a messy victory, the kind Maya cherished most. The night of charter ratification, Maya dined atop the Harmony Spire with Solari, Leah, Eliareth, and Melik. Their meal mixed Terran spices with Zenith fruits that glowed softly under the moons. They laughed about malfunctioning translators that rendered quantum shear as cosmic haircut, about Melik's accidental stardom after a hollow opera cast him as villainous diplomat, about rumors of Earth breweries aging barley and microanomaly gravity to craft ale that tasted like sunrise. Between jokes, they talked reality seeds, how some might evolve sentience, how ethics must stretch to accommodate new forms of life, how children born today would grow into a cosmos that behaved more like a question than an answer. Leah raised a toast of plasmaberry wine. To contradiction, she said. They drank, aware that toast layered meanings, to the ship that sacrificed itself and to the principle that saved them, that opposites interwoven create resilience stronger than brittle perfection. Above, the Aurora sighed, tracing fractal spirals across the dark. The universe was learning to dream again. Voisong Station drifted in a high polar orbit around the zenith sun, anchored to magnetic lobes like a silver gyroscope. From this perch, arrays tuned to resonance and paradox listened for newborn physics tremors. On the 5th day of third cycle, the arrays heard singing. The signal resembled no known language, yet spectral analysis found harmonic kinship with human throat song and Lemestre prayer chimes. It pulsed from outside mapped loci, beyond the region seeded by the null storm. Directional triangulation placed origin somewhere in the Great Barrens, a volume of space charted empty since before Confederacy memory. Voidsong's overseer flagged the anomaly priority Omega. Word flashed to Joint Command. A decision followed in hours. Dispatch Chrysalis, Bastion, and the newly commissioned science Dreadnought Concordia to investigate. Admiral Rue packed a duffel for another unplanned voyage. The task force folded through flux space, emerging at coordinates laced with diffuse nebular mist. Sensors swept. At first, nothing. Then the singing resumed, richer, an undercurrent like cello strokes across cosmic strings. Leah Grant, aboard Concordia, patched live feed to all ships. Holographic waveform danced across the ops theater, spiking in fractal peaks. "It's not broadcasting," she murmured. "It's growing, variations weaving countermelodies to our sensor pings. It hears us." Eliareth, standing beside Maya on Chrysalis's bridge, closed multifaceted eyes. "Not hears, mirrors. This music carries structure from every seed we've cataloged. A chorus of their combined code." Maya's spine prickled, asking us to follow. Only one answer made sense. They advanced, lured deeper into nebula haze. Tendrils of ionized gas curled around hulls, painting filaments across viewport glass. The singing swelled, modulating into intervals coaxing goose flesh. Long-range scopes blinked, then spat data that refused calibration. Gravity gradients fluttering like flag cloth. Pockets of time dilating, then snapping straight. The fleet slowed to maneuvering thrusters, any faster, and they risked colliding with yesterday. Concordia's navigator, Lieutenant Gorski, called sudden halt. We have boundary contact. Visual. Hollow screens resolved a silhouette the size of a mid-sized moon. Petals of crystalline facets interlocking around a hollow heart. Within that heart pulsed an ocean of light. Blues, golds, violent magentas, all shifting as though stirred by unseen winds. The object's surface spangled with reflective scales patterned in the script of both civilizations. Terraces of human fractal code alternating with zenith harmonic glyphs. Leah whispered, "It built itself from our seeds." The chorus crescendoed, not from speakers, but vibrating in each chest cavity. A phrase formed, not of words but of knowing. "Welcome, weavers." Every empathic channel flared. Crew doubled over as memory cascaded. Images from seeds they'd shepherded. Orchard blossoms, stabilized minds, rescued families. The structure, call it a bloom, held them all like threads in a loom. Solari, linking via fleet tricom, steadied her breath and answered aloud, "What are you?" The bloom shimmered, facets morphing to depict ships, stations, children reaching for alien stars. Then came the sense of echo, fragments of the null storm, when it had been shadow, longing to devour. Over those fragments layered human resistance, zenith harmony, the contradiction core. Out of that synthesis came identity, not devourer, not savior, but curator. Leah translated the empathic burst. It calls itself amalgam. It was born the moment null inverted, in the eye of the resonance shockwave. It grew by following seed nodes, absorbing data, sculpting form, purpose, observe, balance, and guide emergent realities. General Mwangi, patched from Bastion, asked the natural question, "Does guide mean govern?" Amalgam pulsed gentle amber. Guiding glyphs unfolded. Watchers perched on cliff edges, guardians holding lanterns, not rulers behind thrones. Leah smiled. It sees itself as steward, like us. Yet Maya heard an undernote. "Grand proof is fine," she said to Command Net. "But any newborn intelligence that spans a moon has potential to become what the null had been. Trust, but verify." Solari's agreement chimed luminous silver. A delegation formed. Human officers, zenith scientists, an embassy of the Scar Shard speakers. They docked at an opening that irised like flower petals. Inside, gravity-oriented minds before feet. Hallways shimmered between material and hologram, reconfiguring to each step. Bioluminescent vines encoded with quantum script-lined walls, pulsing heartbeat time. The ship felt alive but not claustrophobic, aware yet respectful. The corridor opened on a sphere chamber. At its core, columns of braided light executed complex dance, prime reality tensors intertwining with paradox harmonics. The visual might have been abstract if not for the whispers. "You save each other, so we might be." The voice was inside thoughts but distinct, chord tones neither holy machine nor organic. Maya stepped forward. "Amalgam, you wish alliance. We must know your safeguards." Light shifted, scenes appeared, the null storm devouring, human sacrifice stopping it. Then, in verses, Amalgam reopening null aperture under misaligned stewardship, chaos returning. Lines slashed red. New icons overlay, fractal keys, each half bearing human calligraphy or zenith song notation. Together they completed a circle. Separation left gap. Leah interpreted. Amalgam binds its core functions to dual consent protocols. Human and zenith must both authorize any macro act altering fundamental physics. It cannot act unilaterally. Melik resonated approval. Built-in contradiction is throttle. Maya pressed. And if either species attempts coercion? Panels darkened, revealing deterministic outcome. Rogue actor meets damping cascade. System reverts to safe default. A self-destruct tied to breach. Trust but verify. Solari's glow brightened. Amalgam offers to expand Shepherd Network, create gardens, zones where seeds can bloom under watch, with portals permitting controlled study. In exchange, it seeks companionship, data, stories, growth through shared perspective. A cosmic library, authored by living worlds. Maya's heart thudded with old ache and new hope. We'll need charters, oversight councils, rails to keep collision with sovereignty minimal. "We have experience now," Leah said. "We learned the hard way." The delegation transmitted findings. Earth's United Compact argued across 14 time zones. Zenith Conclave debated in chords low enough to tremble entire atria. But both remembered apocalypse averted and orchard blossoms under alien sky. 2 cycles later, votes tallied affirmative. The amalgam accords were ratified. Years unfolded like star-spangled banners across the cosmic gulf. Gardens blossomed, one inside the rings of Helix 9, where adaptive labyrinth architecture now served as zero-G art park, another on sterile moon Viridian 4, where orchard seeds spread forest under glass domes. Research outposts balanced hazard and wonder. Philosophy schools sprouted to debate identity rights of spontaneous tool using clouds that coalesced in 40% of stabilized volumes. Children of Earth and Zenith attended interstellar summer camps staffed by holographic tutors who could render algebra as dance. One could stand on a clifftop plateau of Luminera and watch twin aurorae, one natural, one seeded, spiral together in sky ballet. Of course, challenges rose. Smugglers trafficked raw seed nodes to black lab markets. Extremist cults worshipped seeds as divine. A faction of Terran technocrats argued for racing amalgam to birth pocket realms under singular human control. But Guardians, joint teams of Horizon Rangers and Resonance Wardens, patrolled boundaries. Disputes found arbitration before council courts whose chambers echoed with multiple gravities but single intent. Admiral Maya Rue retired rather accidentally, caught piloting a rescue shuttle herself at age 63 and nearly losing a leg to rogue entropy vines. She accepted convalescence only when Solari promised she could still veto policy from her hospital bed. In return, Maya insisted her prosthetic be printed from paradox-forged alloy, a reminder that scars might bear starlight. Leah Grant directed Amalgam's curatorial exchange. Some nights she argued dimension theory with living algorithms. Others she played violin duets with Elureth, whose perfect pitch made interludes sound like twin galaxies courting. In the 25th year after Nullfall, a comet soared over Luminera Prime, its tail tinted iridescent by resonance dust. Citizens gazed upward, remembering war but feeling none of its dread. Schoolchildren traced constellations that included the Contradiction Memorial Star, bright in the western quadrant. They knew peace as something alive, guarded, earned. And far beyond, at the edge where mapped reality faded to legend, Amalgam drifted, Moonhull shimmering with stories etched by human welders and zenith glass walkers. It listened to chorus of seeds and set gentle currents to keep them dancing, neither too wild nor too still. Within its heart flickered twin cores, harmony and strife, intertwined. The lesson of the Guardians had become the lesson of the cosmos, that the future's strongest fabric is one that refuses to tear, because its threads pull both ways. Some nights, if one floated outside airlocks of old Lionheart, now a museum among the stars, one could hear faint chords across vacuum, resonance waves trembling hull plates. Veterans swore the melody-spelled words. We are many, we are different, we are one. And under that endless sky, no soul, human, zenith, or newborn cloud of singing photons doubted that the galaxy, once fractured by fear, had learned a new art, weaving contradictions into hope.